Okay, I have a map up on the screen, and I'm going to post this map. It's Mexico in 1824. Um, I can't tell you how much easier your life will be if you take a look at the maps that I post, especially this map, because this is a part of Texas that I think Texas history that I think very few of you know. So we're into Mexico, and I can stop saying Spain. Goodbye, Spain. Um, and what happens in Mexico, it's a complicated history, but the big point I want to make, the first point is up until 1836, Texas is part of Mexico, is part of Mexican history. It may seem obvious and why would I say that? But I think a lot of folks just kind of are ready to separate Texas from Mexico. And I'm not accusing anybody. I mean, I feel that myself sometimes. But just remember now that Mexico is Texas is very much part of Mexican history at this point. It's not separate from it. It's integral to the history of Mexico. So we're not, Texas isn't independent as it's not part of the US, it's part of Mexico now. So you have two competing groups in Mexico, political groups, and I'll talk about this and I'll put this in my outline. You have the centralists, and just like the name indicates, they want the power to be in the central government, i.e., Mexico City. They want the central government of Mexico to be more powerful than state governments. Okay, so that's the centralist. And then you have the federalist. And the federalists want more power to be in state governments rather than in Mexico City. And we have that same issue in the United States. Let me give you a real hot button topic, which I'm not commenting on or making any political statement about it. I just kind of want to point this out. So let's take abortion, very hot topic issue in the 2020s. And, no doubt about it. Well, what happens in with the abortion is different states have different laws on abortion. In Texas, the laws are very stringent. In California, the laws are much more favorable to a woman seeking an abortion. So the point is, and if I can get away from the hot topic issue of abortion for a second or forever, the point I'm trying to make is even today in the U.S., we have very important issues that there's fights at the federal level, but there's also fights at the state level. Another example is marijuana. Some states marijuana is legal, some states it's illegal. So we have federalism in the US as well. Okay, so it's not completely alien to us. So just to repeat, the big political fights in Mexico up until the Texas Revolution are the centralist, those that want most of the power to be in Mexico City. They're also very pro-Roman Catholic. There's other issues that don't really concern us in this course. So you have the centralists and you have the federalists, and the federalists want most power to be in state capitals, not at the federal level, not at this. That's confusing because I said federal. Most federalists want power to be at the state level in state capitals, not in the national government in Mexico City. So there's these tremendous fights in Mexico, and Mexican Texas will get caught up with that. Okay, so is that clear? You've got the centralists and you've got the federalists. Okay. Now, this affects Texas beginning in 1824 when the Mexican Constitution of 1824 is ratified. And the Mexican Constitution of 1824 is a federalist constitution. It's a constitution that's much more friendly to state governments than it is to the central government. In other words, it gives a lot of power to state governments. Now, the central government in Mexico City still has some power. Of course, it can raise an army. It's the one that has diplomatic relations with other nations. But on the day-to-day level, the Mexican Constitution of 1824 is a federalist document because it lets the day-to-day activities of states be ruled from state capitals, okay? Now, the importance for Texas is this. Texas, and look at this on the map, becomes part of the largest state in Mexico, which is the state of Coahuila-Tejas. Coahuila-Tejas is the largest state in Mexico after 1821, and it's created by the 1824 Constitution, okay? So you're going to be tested on that. You're going to be tested on that. Texas becomes part of this larger state. Now, Texas is a subunit unit of this state. I think the legislature of Coahuila-Tejas has 12 members, the Congress, and Texas is only has one member out of this 12. Remember, the Texas population is still pretty small, right? It's growing, but it's pretty small. So Texas is actually a subunit of this big state, but nonetheless, it's part of the largest state in Mexico. And the capital of Coahuila-Tejas is Saltillo. So suddenly now Texas, which is becoming more Anglo every day by 1824, is governed from Saltillo on the state level, and of course Mexico City on the national level. But as I said, the day-to-day ruling and the day-to-day life of Texas mostly comes to Saltillo. Most importantly, the fights about slavery and whether or not slavery would exist in Texas, most of those fights happened in Saltillo. Mexico as a whole was anti-slavery. Most Mexicans opposed slavery. By 1824, slavery was certainly on its way out in Mexico. There had been slavery in Mexico, but it was not a significant institution by the 1820s. And the majority of the people of Mexico were actually quite anti-slavery. This was different in, of course, Anglo-Texas, because Anglos are bringing in their enslaved with them to grow cotton. So, of course, they're pro-slavery. But as I'll talk about more over the next couple of weeks, the Anglos coming into Texas have powerful allies in Saltillo, and they also have powerful allies in San Antonio, such as the Seguin family, the Navarro, that are working with them. So the slaveholding Anglos coming into Texas create alliances with Tejanos, powerful Tejano families, and they also create alliances in Saltillo, which are pro-slavery alliances. Now, why would these Mexicans, such as the Seguin family, Navarro, why would some people in Saltillo, why would they be pro-slavery? It comes down to money. These families, some of the people in Saltillo, not all by any means, but some of the powerful figures in Saltillo, they want a piece of the global cotton economy because, again, it's the big moneymaker of this period of global history. So what you have is the only place in Mexico in the 1820s that's pro-slavery is Texas or Coahuila-Tejas, especially the Texas part of that. But even in Saltillo, there are some powerful figures in Saltillo that are supportive of slavery as well. In no other place in Mexico does slavery have any traction whatsoever. Only in this area. And again, we understand why the Anglos are pro-slavery because they've come in with their slaves and they want to grow cotton. But we also have some powerful Tejanos that are pro-slavery too because they want part of the action. They want part of the action, and they don't display any kind of moral repugnance against slavery. So, long story short, you have Tejanos and you also have political figures in Saltillo who are ultimately pro-slavery. And there are going to be some very, very intense fights over the future of slavery in Texas, which I'll be talking about in the following weeks.